I never imagined my life would feel like a story I couldn't control, one where every choice I made seemed to push me further into someone else's expectations. My name is Rohan, and I grew up in a house where being a boy felt more like a label than a choice. My parents, traditional and strict, always praised my younger sister Anya for being perfect, while I was constantly reminded of my failures, messy rooms, low grades, and a lack of boyish ambition. From an early age, I learned to hide parts of myself. I had hobbies my friends couldn't know about, interests that didn't fit the rigid mold of masculinity. I loved fashion. Not just sketching designs but experimenting in secret. I would sometimes borrow my sister's dresses when the house was empty, slipping into her world when no one was watching. It wasn't just curiosity, it was a sanctuary, a place where I could breathe, even if it was just for a few hours. My life changed the day Isabella came into the picture. She wasn't just my girlfriend. She was the first person who seemed to see me as I truly was. Isabella had this uncanny ability to sense things about people. Strengths they hid, vulnerabilities they buried. With her I felt safe yet exposed because trusting her meant revealing my secret side. Our relationship was an intricate dance of fear and trust. She adored my creative side but didn't yet know about my crossdressing. I wanted to tell her I really did, but every time I tried my tongue froze. The fear of rejection was a shadow I carried every day. She lived only a few blocks away, which was convenient but also dangerous. Even a small slip, an outfit left out, a stray makeup brush, could shatter the fragile trust I'd built. The setting of my story is this small, suffocating suburban home, a place that looked ordinary to anyone else but felt like a cage to me. The walls were lined with family photos. Anya smiling with medals from school competitions, my parents beaming with pride, and me, usually in the background, unnoticed. I spent hours alone in my room, which became both a prison and a playground. I painted my nails in secret, tried on different hairstyles, and experimented with makeup. Each attempt was a thrill, a small rebellion against a world that refused to accept the person I felt inside. The first real turning point came unexpectedly. One weekend, my parents announced a family gathering to celebrate Anya's latest achievement, a scholarship she'd earned for excelling academically and socially. Naturally, I was expected to accompany her, to play the supportive brother, while secretly dreading the night. But there was a twist. The house would be empty for a few hours before the guests arrived. Isabella had texted me that she wanted to stop by later in the evening, which meant I had a narrow window to explore my other self without getting caught. I remember the tension in my chest as I closed my bedroom door, locked it, and approached my sister's wardrobe. The dresses were carefully organized, a rainbow of colors and textures. My fingers trembled as I selected a soft pink dress with lace trimming. It wasn't just clothing. It was armor, a shield, and a mirror all at once. I slipped into it, feeling the fabric hug my body in ways nothing else ever had. The sensation was intoxicating and terrifying at the same time. I was both me and someone else, vulnerable, confident, and exposed all at once. The makeup was the hardest part. My hands shook as I applied foundation, carefully drawing my eyebrows and adding a soft hint of blush. Each brushstroke was deliberate, each movement a mix of fear and exhilaration. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and froze. Who was staring back? A girl? A boy? Somewhere in between? The reflection smiled softly, teasing, daring me to step outside the boundaries I had always known. Even with the excitement, my mind raced with questions. What if Isabella saw me like this? What if my parents discovered my secret before the gathering? Would my sister ever understand? Or would this shatter the fragile balance of our family forever? My heart pounded in my chest, a drumbeat that matched the rush of adrenaline and fear. By the time I heard Isabella's car pull into the driveway, I was fully transformed. My legs were clad in sheer stockings, heels clicked softly against the floor, and my hair flowed perfectly over my shoulders. The person in the mirror was confident and beautiful, but terrified. I had crossed a line, stepped into a world that might welcome me, or destroy me. This was the beginning. A single night, a single choice that would set everything in motion. I didn't yet know the consequences, but I knew one thing for certain. I could never go back to the way things were before. And as I heard the faint knock on the door, my pulse spiked. Would Isabella notice the change? Would she accept me? Or would this secret finally push us apart? The moment the doorbell rang, my heart jumped into my throat. I had transformed completely. Pink dress, heels and carefully styled hair. But the reflection staring back at me in the mirror seemed almost alien. I barely recognized myself. Every inch of my body was tingling, electrified by the thrill and terror of being discovered. I opened the door and there she was. Isabella, smiling like sunshine, had decided to visit me personally. Her eyes, always sharp and perceptive, lingered on me for a fraction longer than usual. "Rohan, you look different," she said softly, tilting her head. My throat tightened. "Different?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Yes, in a good way." "You're beautiful," she added, and my chest swelled with a strange mixture of pride and fear. Pride because I'd never dared feel this confident. Fear because even the smallest hint of suspicion could unravel everything. We sat in the living room, chatting casually about school, work, and her day. All the while my mind raced. The soft click of my heels against the floor, the brush of the dress against my thighs, and the subtle fragrance of the perfume I'd borrowed from Anya. It all heightened my senses. I was acutely aware of every movement, every glance, every small sound in the house. The suspense wasn't just external. It was me. I had to stay composed, but every nerve in my body screamed excitement. Crossdressing had always been a secret thrill, but now it felt amplified, dangerous. Each smile from Isabella, each casual comment, was like walking a tightrope. One wrong step and the fall could be catastrophic. I excused myself to the bedroom under the pretense of fetching something. The door closed behind me with a soft click, and I finally allowed myself a moment to breathe. I looked into the mirror again, taking in the full transformation. The soft curls, the delicate makeup, the gentle sway of the dress. Everything screamed freedom, yet the shadow of exposure lingered. As I touched my reflection, I thought of my family. They had always chosen my sister over me, showering her with praise while I was dismissed as unremarkable. I hated it, but part of me had learned to hide in plain sight. Crossdressing wasn't just a secret indulgence, it was a rebellion. A way to claim attention in a house that had never truly noticed me. The thrill of that rebellion surged when Isabella peeked into the room. "Everything okay in here?" she asked, her voice soft and teasing. I forced a laugh, feeling the delicate flutter of my chest. "Yeah, just grabbing something," I lied. I knew she didn't suspect, but the tension was intoxicating. The risk was part of the pleasure. Later, I decided to take it a step further. I had arranged my sister's jewelry carefully on the dresser, selecting pieces that complemented the dress. Each earring, necklace, and bracelet I put on felt like armor and a signal. This was me, or at least a version of me I rarely let exist in the world. The tiny chime of bracelets brushing together was a soundtrack to my audacity. But with each addition, the stakes grew. My hand shook slightly as I secured a delicate necklace around my neck. What if it snapped? What if a strand of hair fell awkwardly? Every detail mattered. Crossdressing wasn't just about clothes, it was about embodying someone else entirely, navigating a persona that society, and even the people I loved, might never accept. Then came the first close call. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway froze me in place. My parents were home earlier than expected. My stomach dropped. I had exactly 2 minutes to transform back into my normal self. My fingers fumbled over the zipper of the dress, my heels clacking loudly as I kicked them off. The dress slipped over my head, and I tugged on a hoodie and jeans, heart hammering in my chest. When the door opened, my parents stepped in, chatting casually, oblivious to my near disaster. The relief was almost painful in its intensity. I leaned against the wall, breathless, realizing how fragile my secret really was. The excitement of crossdressing was intoxicating, but it was inseparable from the fear of exposure. Isabella noticed the sudden tension in me. "You okay?" she asked again, her voice tinged with concern. I forced a smile, nodding. "Yeah, just a bit tired." I lied again, feeling the weight of deception press down on me. She accepted it, but I could tell she was curious. Her curiosity was a dagger. Part of me wanted to tell her everything, yet another part of me wanted to hide forever. The night stretched on. I experimented more cautiously now, stepping into my crossdress persona only when I was sure no one could see. Each moment was a careful dance between exhilaration and fear. I practiced walking in heels in the hallway, feeling the sway of the dress and the subtle rhythm of my own heartbeat. I practiced different expressions in the mirror, smiling, coy, confident. It was intoxicating yet exhausting. And then came the psychological transformation. Crossdressing wasn't just physical. It altered the way I moved, thought, and even spoke. I noticed my voice softening slightly, my gestures becoming more fluid. The world seemed different when I looked out through the lens of my other self. I wasn't Rohan anymore, at least not fully. I was someone daring, vulnerable, beautiful, and exposed. But with that transformation came internal conflict. I felt guilt for deceiving Isabella, shame for hiding from my family, and an almost thrilling fear that someone might catch me in the act. Each emotion surged and receded, leaving me dizzy, addicted to the intensity. This secret life was dangerous, intoxicating, and utterly irresistible. The climax of the build-up occurred when Isabella suggested we take a walk outside. My heart sank. This would be the ultimate test of my transformation. Could I maintain the persona in public in front of someone who adored me? My pulse raced as I slipped on a cardigan over the dress, masking the worst of my secret while still allowing the persona to exist. Outside, the world felt alien. I could hear my heels clacking faintly on the sidewalk, drawing attention from strangers. Every passerby seemed to be watching, judging. But Isabella held my hand gently, her presence grounding me. The thrill of exposure, mixed with the comfort of trust, was unlike anything I had ever experienced. By the time we returned home, I was trembling. Physically from the heels, emotionally from the tension, and psychologically from the thrill of the secret. I realized something important. Crossdressing wasn't just a hobby. It was a lifeline, a way to claim identity and control in a world that had never given me either. But the danger was ever present. One wrong move, one suspicious glance, and everything could collapse. The night ended with me alone in my room, staring at my reflection in the mirror. The dress was folded carefully on the bed, makeup cleaned and stored. But the reflection staring back wasn't entirely Rohan. She was there too, soft, daring, alive. The duality was intoxicating and terrifying. I knew that soon I would have to navigate a world where my two selves collided, and the consequences could be irreversible. The evening started innocently enough, with Isabella still by my side. Her hand in mine felt grounding, yet it also reminded me of the fragile balancing act I was performing. Every step in my heels echoed like a countdown. Every glance in my direction could reveal my secret. I could feel the persona I had built, the confident, alluring version of myself, straining against the walls of my real identity, threatening to spill. The first shock came unexpectedly. Anya, my sister, texted me that she'd forgotten something and would be home early. My stomach sank. There were only minutes before she walked through the front door. Panic surged, but my adrenaline kicked in. I had to act fast. I quickly pulled on a hoodie over the dress, stuffed the heels under the bed, and wiped off the subtle blush I had applied to my cheeks. Every second felt like an eternity. "Everything okay?" Isabella asked, noticing my sudden tension. I forced a smile, nodding, and explained it away as nerves. But the moment she left to use the restroom, I realized just how vulnerable I was. Anya could appear at any second. My carefully curated secret, my dual identity, was hanging by a thread. And then the knock came, soft, deliberate, familiar. My heart froze. Anya. I could hear her key in the lock, the familiar jingle of her entrance. I darted to my bedroom, slipping into normal clothes as quickly as possible. My fingers trembled as I tried to zip up my hoodie, sweat dripping down my back. Each heartbeat was deafening. The closet door creaked. She was closer. I froze. My reflection in the mirror caught my eye, the fleeting image of the girl I had become, the confident persona I had spent months cultivating, now replaced by the boy I was supposed to be. The transformation wasn't just physical. It was emotional. I felt loss, fear, and desire all at once. Anya entered the room. "Rohan, are you here?" she called. My voice trembled as I replied, "Yeah, just in my room." She walked past the doorway, pausing, sniffing the air like a predator sensing prey. My heart pounded in my chest. I prayed she wouldn't notice anything amiss. Every step she took toward my side of the house seemed to echo in the room. Then catastrophe. A small earring, one I had forgotten to remove from the floor, glinted under the lamp. Anya's eyes narrowed. "Rohan, what's this?" she asked, picking it up. My mind raced. I had seconds to think, to act. I I must have dropped it, I stammered, trying to sound casual. But my voice betrayed me. The familiar weight of guilt settled over my shoulders. Anya didn't respond immediately, only holding the earring like evidence against me. Her eyes flickered with suspicion. The air between us was thick, charged with unspoken truths. Before I could respond, Isabella returned from the restroom. Her presence was both a relief and a new layer of danger. Anya glanced at her and then back at me, her gaze sharp, calculating. "What's going on?" she asked, suspicion cracking her voice. I knew I had to act. "Nothing really," I said, forcing a casual tone. But the words felt hollow. Every second I lied, the tension coiled tighter, a spring ready to snap. Then the unexpected happened. The doorbell rang again. My parents. Earlier than expected. My stomach dropped. The timing was catastrophic. I was trapped between Anya, who suspected something, Isabella, who could see through me, and my parents, who could unknowingly expose me at any moment. In a frenzy, I tried to shove the earring into a drawer. My hands fumbled, and the entire contents of my jewelry box spilled across the floor. The clatter was deafening. My parents' voices called from the living room, confused, asking what had happened. I froze. Isabella's eyes widened in shock. Anya's lips pressed into a thin line. The tension reached a breaking point when Anya bent down to pick up the scattered items. Her hand brushed mine for just a second, and I felt a shockwave of fear. She lifted a delicate necklace, her eyes catching mine. The air seemed to freeze. "Rohan, what is going on?" It was then that I made a split-second decision. I leaned in, voice low and urgent. "Anya, please. You have to promise you won't tell anyone," I whispered. She looked at me, confusion and suspicion warring in her expression. I continued. I need you to understand. This is who I am, even if it's hard to accept. Please." Her eyes softened slightly, but the uncertainty remained. I don't know, Rohan," she admitted, stepping back. "This is a lot." Before I could respond, my parents walked in. The room erupted into chaos. Questions flew, voices rose, accusations lingered. My heart was in my throat. Isabella stood beside me, her hand gripping mine tightly, offering silent support. But the danger was real. My secret, my identity, was on the verge of exposure, and the consequences were unknown. In the midst of this storm, a symbolic moment crystallized the emotional tension. The wig I had worn earlier, the last vestige of my alter ego, slipped from the top of a chair. It landed on the floor with a soft thud, almost like a declaration. There it was, the tangible proof of the dual life I had been living. My eyes locked on it, and I realized that my secret was no longer contained. The reflection of my two selves, the boy Rohan and the girl I longed to be, stood glaring back at me in stark clarity. Isabella's voice cut through the tension. "Rohan, it's okay. We'll figure this out," she said softly, but her eyes betrayed worry. My parents and Anya stood frozen, shock etched across their faces. The room felt like it was collapsing around me, every wall a reminder of the expectations I had never met. I didn't know what would happen next. Would my parents accept me? Would Anya understand? Could Isabella continue to love me as I was? The questions spun in my head like a cyclone, each one more terrifying than the last. And yet, amid the chaos, a strange exhilaration coursed through me. For the first time, I had revealed a part of myself I had hidden for years. The fear of judgment, the thrill of exposure, the intimacy of vulnerability. It all collided in one dizzying moment. I had crossed the line, and there was no turning back.